Pa, you got any idea what I was doing last night?
It looks like Ethernet.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I was drilling
See,
holes.
once again, I talk about it and you just do it.
Yeah, I mean, this was, I gotta tell you, this was much more pain in the butt than I thought it was gonna be, but um, I had these grand visions of running like 7 lines. We're gonna do 3, and that's gonna be it.
What are you using? Cat 5, 6, 7?
This
What's
is
the
Cat 6.
Cat 6?
Yes.
And what is Cat 6 performance? Is a gigabit? No, Cat 5 is a gigabit, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. It's
So it
better
must be
than
10 gigabit.
something like that.
Yeah.
My router doesn't, or my switch, I should say, doesn't even support it.
Yeah,
So,
no, I know, but you can swap out a switch and get a whole house upgrade.
yeah, potentially.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I don't think my internet. If I ever have 10 gig internet, I will be very happy.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think maybe I'm just misunderstanding how networks
Hmm.
work, but it seems like that kind of headway is still advantageous, right? Like,
Yeah.
like you have gigabit
Yep.
internet now, right? Well, I mean, this kind of, to me, what this means is you could potentially have like full bore gigabit everywhere in the house.
Yeah.
You know
That
what I
is
mean?
true. That is true. And maybe one day we'll get there. But yeah. So
Yeah.
this is just running to the new basement area where I'll be able to hook up the Xbox, which is most important.
Hmm.
Hardwire the Apple TV.
Yep.
And then I'm also going to hardwire a Sonos speaker over there that is part of the 5.1 thing that I'm going to put in.
Okay.
That'll just improve the performance of it a little bit. And really just kind of at that point hope that I don't need anything else. Not that I have bad Wi-Fi in my house in any capacity, but I
By the
don't.
way, this is something that might interest you.
Hmm.
I was over at a friend's house this weekend, and he actually was playing music through the same speakers that I have, right? So he had heard that I recommend these speakers, these Edify speakers.
Yeah.
So I kind of looked, I turned around, I heard music, and I turned and looked. I was like, those look familiar. But he had them connected to an Apple TV, which
Hmm.
he was basically using as like a Chromecast.
Okay.
So in other words, the Apple TV was not connected to a TV. It was only connected to the speakers. And the way he
Oh.
did it was,
Hmm.
yeah, he got an HDMI to RCA connection and you just use it and you could use that as like a whole house audio kind of thing. Like
Interesting.
it's weird
Yeah.
to me that Apple doesn't support or doesn't make an audio only Apple TV. In other words, like actually we would call that an AirPlay. Was it 3 now or 2?
AirPlay 2 adapter or
2
dongle or
adapter, right?
something. Yeah.
Like a dongle to get it to speakers.
Yeah.
Yeah, but as it turns out, you can use an Apple TV like that. That's something that's never
Hmm.
occurred to me to even try. I actually have an extra Apple TV. I would consider it's in fact assuming you could do AirPlay 2 on like an older unit. If you upgraded to the latest Apple TV, like it might not be a bad use for the older one.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Um, I think the reason why Apple doesn't do it is they want you to buy that HomePod. Buy the HomePod.
Yeah, but they should have
Nobody's
multiple
buying
choices.
HomePods.
No,
Like, that's
no, no. But it doesn't really matter what you think of the HomePod. Like this system kind of proves like these things could integrate together. Like
yeah.
you could have HomePods in one room and then
Hmm.
maybe you have speakers attached to like a turntable or something.
Yep.
And you could put this dongle thing on it or an Apple TV. And the way that works, I mean, I don't use an iPhone every day, but I think when you pull up the control center,
Hmm.
actually it's probably just in the app. However you do it, there's a little icon for that. You could choose multiple speakers, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty good idea.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Something never really crossed my mind. I think I'm too deep in the Sonos hole to actually go exploring
No,
that. But,
sure.
but for
But I
somebody
mean,
else
if you,
listening to this who hasn't, where you're like you have an Apple TV sitting around, you might want to
yeah.
give it a shot.
Well, I don't really, so I'm, I mean, look, I mean, I use Android devices. So like having an Apple what do you call it? AirPlay based speaker setup,
Hmm.
maybe doesn't make a lot of sense, um, but I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be interesting to test this. We listen to music a lot. I mean, like test it and see how it
Hmm.
works compared to using a Chromecast. I mean, Apple TVs are probably what, $100, $129. I mean, they're not
Yeah.
inexpensive, but I mean, I got a free one just from a promo from some company. I don't remember what the deal was. But, I don't know. Anyway, anyway, just interesting. For people out there, if you're doing Apple stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a nice, straight, simple, forward process, unlike what's happening with the insider stuff.
Dude, oh God. We actually, this is rare for us, but we have a lot to talk about today. And a lot of Microsoft stuff to talk about.
Yeah. So I read the post and I've read
Hmm?
what has been written about it. But from my understanding is basically Microsoft is now shipping a single fast ring. There's no more skip ahead junk.
Yep.
And they are going to include features in it, which may or may not be included in the next release of Windows. So we don't really know, like they're going to start testing a lot of things or whatever in the fast ring, but we don't know when they're going to show up. And we don't really know when they ship a new build, if it's going to be part of what, 20H1, 20H2, Narnia.
Well, it can't be 20H1 now.
Yeah, I
right?
guess that's about
20H1 is locked.
Yep.
But yeah, it would be, what do you call it? 28H2 or Narnia, you know? Yeah. So here's the problem. First of all, I assume you had the same reaction.
Mm-hmm.
You read the post and then you were like, wait, what? And then you went back and you read it again and you were like, am I reading this right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it's so poorly communicated. It's like, it's kind of hard to understand what they're doing. And look, this may not be the author's fault. I'm sure this edict is handed down from the the wizards over in Azure, but like, or whatever. But there's so many questions. Like the problem with this kind of thing is like, it just raises questions. Obviously this is a brand new system. So is there we're going to be getting close to 20H2 being feature complete sometime in August, maybe.
Yep.
Actually, it might be earlier now because they're doing things earlier. So let's say June, whatever. All right. So is there going to be a post in June where they say, okay, we have locked down the feature set for 20H2.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're going to be testing going forward. So if you're, and there's a weirdness too, like fast ring has always been something, but now it's something different. So does that mean, what does it mean? Like, does it mean like you have to be in slow ring and slow ring will have the,
is that the feature release?
Yeah. Right. Like I guess my point, I'm sorry, I'm not saying this correctly. My point is only that it raises questions like that by, the post should have been, the announcement or whatever should have been informational. It should have been like, look, things are changing, but here's the deal. And instead it was like, things are changing. And then it just raises all these questions. And it's like, well, and they're not going to come out next week and say, sorry, there were some questions. Here's the answer. It's like, they're never going to answer this stuff. There'll be a point in June where we have to surmise because slow ring hasn't changed in 3 weeks or something. Like this is like, it's just weird. Like there are people who have to support Windows 10. I'm being a little selfish here because I write a book, but I'm not particularly unique. I didn't know that. Well, I support Windows 10 with a book, I know. But okay, so there are 8 of us that write books about Windows 10. Like that's not an important audience per se, but what about IT support staff? Don't you need to know what's coming? Isn't that part of the decision about whether or not to upgrade to that version? Or when to upgrade to that version? Or I just don't quite. Yeah. There's a lot of things I don't understand, I think is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, this is the ongoing narrative of Windows servicing evolution.
Yeah, evolution's an interesting term. Certainly it's changing.
Yep.
Evolution suggests it's improving, but I don't know, maybe that's not the right way to think of it.
Well, it's doing things.
It's definitely not standing still.
That is true.
But there's bigger news than that, Brad, and I don't usually drive the discussion here. I apologize, but I've been dying to get to this. Because I was going to write this story up this morning, but Mehdi already wrote it up as a news story.
Yep. So
I will just give you my little bit of conjecture here instead, which is that terrible Xbox name, Xbox Series X, is literally only the name of that particular product. And as we guessed, there will be more of these consoles, different versions, and that the real name of this next generation of consoles is just Xbox.
What's
because
missing?
Why not confuse it by using a name we've used in the past?
You know what's missing that would have solved all this? A comma. It should have been Xbox, comma.
Yep.
Series X.
Yep. Yeah, the communication thing is company-wide. I think we can agree to that. So here's my theory. We know that there's going to be a lower end version of this console.
Yep.
And that it will be not as powerful. It will be, I think I saw you on Twitter suggest that maybe it will be like a 1440p
Yep.
baseline kind of a thing. I think they're going to call that Xbox Series S.
I agree. Yeah, because we have that. I have a post that I'll finish up after this. That actually somebody smartly, and you'll see here, actually, you can't see it in their image, which I'm looking at now, and I know nobody else is, but behind the controller of like the promo image they're using everywhere is a USB Type A port. And so what they did was they used that to calculate the size of it. And
that's awesome.
It's roughly, I can't remember the height, but it's a 6x6 cube. And then I believe it's 15 centimeters tall, I think.
Okay.
15 cm to inches. What is it?
It's a little shorter than the Xbox One X, I believe, based on. Yeah. I don't know.
Anyway, so it's a 6x6 cube. It's not 15 centimeters high. I can't find the image. You'll see a post up on the site that will just kind of break out exactly how big it is. But it's not as big as kind of expected, which is good. It's actually a little bit more compact. And so there were some interesting mock-ups, too, that along that same line. So you have the Xbox Series X, which is bigger. And then like the Series S would actually be a little bit smaller. Yeah.
So there's two ways you could do this I think would be kind of cool, right? So if you think about this thing as a big it's not really a slab because it's got depth to it too, but it's a what do you call that kind of shape? It's just a it's not a cube because it's tall. It's it's a rectangular cube, right? A cube, whatever. I realize a cube is technically a rectangle, but you know what I mean. So they could either do something where they chop off a bit of the top, so it's the same dimensions except for the height, or they could do it as a 80% scale, same dimensions but smaller, right? I mean, either way. I mean, they should also do different color versions too.
They will. They definitely will. I really want a white one, and of course they'll ship it in black first, and then.
You know, it would solve a lot of problems, Brad.
What?
They could do a version in Surface Gray. Yeah, standardize on the blend.
Maybe they could go for that 1989 Honda Accord beige. Like that would be.
I mean, for those people that want to wear Surface headphones and not look like a loser, which, by the way, is self-defeating. But you know, they can make them the same color.
Oh my god, I don't know where this is going. Anyways, yeah, that's out there. You can also now submit your own extensions to Edge, which I didn't realize you still couldn't do, but. Now you can.
Who doesn't want to jump on that train, huh? Like, what is? I feel very strongly. I'm actually writing something right now about the new Edge and this kind of this very aggressive rollout, which maybe is the other big story for today. They're going to replace the old Edge on January 15th. Like they're just going to blow it out of the water. It's like this thing never happened. I'm sure they wish it never happened. They made a huge mistake when they launched Windows 10, not just with Edge. They did it with things like Cortana. They did it with UWP. And probably many others. Yeah.
Actually, you know what? That would be a good post right there.
Well, that is the post I'm writing.
You looked at what everything has changed.
For everything they fucked up. Sorry, that they screwed up when they launched Windows 10. Yeah.
Yes.
So I mentioned this in passing in this Edge post, but you can be sarcastic about things. I don't mean you. I mean, one can be sarcastic about things. And I am often sarcastic about things. So, for example, one of the things I've noted sarcastically is that for all of the wonder of the iPhone, for example, the greatest advance that Apple made with that release was to get people to pay $1,000 for a smartphone that had a battery that lasted less than a day. You know, like to that point, like, yes, they were not as powerful, but phones would last for like days at a time, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Kind of incredible. For Microsoft Edge, sadly, its biggest accomplishment was to overcome the power of the default. We live in a world in which 67% of people using Windows browse the web with Chrome, which means that they get this computer, they launch Edge, they go to google.com/Chrome, they install Chrome. That is incredible. Edge has, I think it was 5.5% usage share. Here we are almost five, we'll call it 4.5 years in. And this thing is pre-installed on almost 1 billion computers.
Yeah.
That is that's not just being defeated. I mean, that's someone punching themselves in the face. And so you can and should make the argument that like what they did
Hmm.
with Edge in this case, and I think with other things, Cortana falls into this category. Absolutely. Like I said, UWP, they made a huge mistake when they did this. Also, you could even like little things like the E logo might have been a mistake.
Yeah.
You've kind of trained people to bypass that thing.
Hmm.
It's too bad.
Here's an interesting little thought that I just jumped into my head. So, Edge will become generally available like middle of January, I think is what they're saying right now, right? That was somewhere around there,
Anyway,
right around Patch Tuesday of middle of January.
also right around what's the other big thing happening in mid-January? Brad, do you remember?
Yeah. So in the middle of January, Microsoft's going to release a new browser that is supported on Windows 7, right as they take the they shoot the support for Windows 7. So.
There's all kinds of history, speculation that can be done. I don't think that it is fair to say what they should have done in 2015 is released a Chromium version of Edge on all of their support versions of Windows. I think that's a bridge too far. So you could also, maybe you could then make the argument, well, since they were never going to do that, what would be the point of releasing Edge on Windows 7 and Windows 8?
Yep.
Honestly, there's still a huge point in doing it because remember the point of making stuff available only on Windows 10 was to drive Windows 10 adoption. That was literally the point. We were going to get to 1 billion within 2 to 3 years. That was the point. And you could probably add a bunch of other products and services and technologies to that list, but let's just stick to the Edge right now. If Microsoft had made Edge available on Windows 7 and Windows 8 from day one, even their old legacy version of Edge, that would have eased the transition to Windows 10 for businesses, which is the most important thing. That's why you put it on there. You could have gotten, and by the way, that is the reason they only have 5.5% usage share. The businesses that needed to stay on Microsoft were using Internet Explorer. And you should have gotten those guys on Edge. That would have driven usage in a much more meaningful way. And they blew it. It was just the wrong decision. I don't know. I realize you have to differentiate, but I think we're still working with some kind of a weird mindset where Windows is going to be a service, and yet we still have to differentiate versions of Windows. And it's like, no, you should just, we're not having a big launch in New York. We're not, all going out to stores at midnight. It's not like that anymore. Like you should just be serving the user base. The world should work the way that software assurance works. You have a Windows license. You can choose any version you use, and Microsoft shouldn't care.
Yeah,
you're getting paid either way. This is like thinking from the past. It's wrongheaded.
Interesting. We will see. So, you got anything else for today, Paul? Any other thoughts up your sleeve?
Just quickly, the couple of Europhone feature stories up today that I think are pretty important. Your phone app has turned from like a good idea, but not really there, into something that's super powerful now. So you can make phone calls on this thing. You have to have Android for all this stuff, obviously. And sometime in the next week or so, people will get an upgrade where you can finally view more than 25 photos from your phone, right? Remember that weird limitation. So it's going to be up to 2,000. And that will make that feature truly useful. So, I think we all understand that maybe this app will never be as seamless as like the Apple experience or whatever. But if you use Windows and you use an Android phone, you need to look at the Earphone app. Like it's gotten really, really good.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
I got to check on this, but also Mahedi wrote up that Google surprises Stadia owners with another buddy pass. I gave Paul one of my buddy passes. If I have another one, I'll just give it away on the Twitters or the forums or wherever.
Yeah. Nice. They're really, they're trying to drive usage there, which is fine.
Well, they need, let me tell you, playing Destiny P2P on Stadia is not great. Not because the performance is an issue, but because like you're just sitting there waiting for other people to play with. So
Yeah, right. And you could look at that cynically, like they're obviously getting desperate, or
Hmm.
just pragmatically, like it's smart.
Yeah,
So,
but I think it's more pragmatic, and I think it's also they kind of have to. But I
mhm.
mean, everyone. I don't think anybody expected Stadia to come out with 10 million users like the first day. That's not realistic. So
Yeah, no, but it will get better.
it will, hopefully, or we'll get Windows 7, and here we are. So
Microsoft edged.
yeah. So, all right, folks, that wraps it up for today. Hopefully, it's not snowing where you are because it's snowing here, and my car is still outside because I've got stuff in my garage.